All right, everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm so excited to be back with session number 7 in the Vital Energy series. We have them all planned out and mapped out through the end of the year. So if you would love to see what's coming up next, make sure to add me on Facebook, jump in any of my offerings. I always share at Facebook, Instagram, and the places that I post these offerings. We do this typically about every other week. These past 2 weeks, we've been back to back to back trying to catch up and be proactive before it comes to holiday season here in just a few short weeks. So tonight we are going to dive into something that is really near and dear to my heart, and that is skin. And a lot of people show up to learn about skin and how to make themselves look younger and not age. And we're going to talk about that today, but we're also going to dive into something I think majority of us have experienced at one point or another in our lives, whether it was in childhood, teenage years, or in our hormonal shifting years. No matter if you are male or female, this is something that is something we could all connect to across the board. So I'm so excited to see a lot of new faces here tonight. I am Dr. Kayla Abeid. I am located in the upstate of South Carolina, but currently I am temporarily located in the northeastern area of Ohio just for a few weeks. And so I'm excited to come to you from a very cold state instead of in the warmth where I'm usually coming to you from. We run these very simple. First of all, they're for educational purposes only. I am a doctor, but I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, which I'll share a little bit more about that in just a second. But I am not your doctor, not your chiropractor or anything in regards on this session. I'm simply here to share wisdom and education for you to open your mind. And so I want to invite everybody to take their key, unlock their mind, open it, because you're probably going to learn something here today that's going to not just shift your conscious awareness, but shift your subconscious awareness too. And you'll see that when we marry that subconscious and conscious connection, we really unlock the opportunity and abundant healing that we're all wanting to tune into. So we're going to start off with an introduction. We're going to go through the biological laws to give you kind of just a layman's term, small taste of understanding so you can get moving and understanding the shift. And we're going to move into that big health paradigm shift. That is my gift and invitation to you tonight surrounding the skin. We're going to talk about something completely transformational that you've probably never heard of before. And that only includes your own light, nothing from the outside, only from the inside out. And then I'm going to share my own personal stories regarding the skin, predominantly with my own children through these healing phases, along with some other individuals who have seen healing shifts in many and different types of walks of life, ages, situations, but they all stem to the same conflict. So I always love to give something that practical that we could do moving forward. So outside of the step-to-step healing guide, I'm going to give you some foundational lifestyle health tips that you could take with you and literally start today. So at the very end, I make sure that we leave some time for personal questions. At any point in time, you're welcome to put in the chat any question you may have. If I'm moving and grooving and I see it, I could pop it in there and I can answer it as I go. But I'll make sure if you have any questions, you have some time to unmic and to turn your video on if you want to have more of a casual connection, which I'm all here for. Education, education, education. I have a lot of it. And I'll be honest, I learned a lot of things in order to unlearn them and then relearn them in some other fashion. So anybody who knows human design, I am a 1-3 manifester for sure. I have to learn all the things, experience all the things, and then, sift through what I love and really just unlearn it to relearn it and bring it to the world and initiate it. So above all of my education, my intention here today is just to guide you back to self-healing. And that self-healing is specific to your biological adaptation because that's who we are. We're biological beings made of light, frequency, sound, and energetics. And so we're going to break that down to what that looks like for you in your personal experience so you can share this education and information with those that you love. So let's get started with the 5 biological laws of nature. Five biological laws of nature were discovered by Dr. Reid Hammer, who was a German internal medicine doctor. He saw individuals who were walking through different facets of healing in life, predominantly cancer. And so he himself was a really healthy man. He had great intentions. He ate great food. He took care and very great health of his body because he lived in Europe, not in the United States. And so as he spent through his tenure, he was looking at cases. And then unfortunately, his son, who was rather young, passed away from a tragic incident. And so with his son tragically being killed, a few short months later, as he was grieving, he noticed he developed prostate cancer. And so that not only, was tragic to him to understand what happened now, this conflict happened and now I developed cancer, but it made a light bulb go off in his head. And so he started combing through thousands and thousands of cases of different subsets of cancer. And so what he did is he looked at these and he found this organization or this pattern, if you will, within nature that showed that anybody who had this subset of cancer diagnosis or these sets of physiological changes had this type of conflict that they experienced before the onset of that cancer. And so what it led him to believe and to discover are the 5 biological laws of nature. We're going to go over them very briefly. For those who want more education about this, I do teach an introductory course. It's about 5 weeks long. You could catch it. You get great materials, resources, and then we could continue diving into how organized and how in-depth our brain and our psyche and our organs do work for us in our meaningful biological adaptations. But tonight, I'm going to bring it down to a level that's easily digestible because I want you to be able to understand one big thing. And that big thing is you don't actually have to learn this and put it in play in your body. Your body's already attuned to it. It is a law. They're 5 biological laws of nature. They're not theories, they're not principles, they're not hypotheses. They are laws. It applies to any animal, plant, or human that is living and breathing. This is how our biology is structured and wired. Just similar to gravity, we don't have to wake up in the morning and say to ourselves, oh, goodness, I have to remember to put my feet on the floor and to hold them down on the floor before I fly to the ceiling and smack my head. It doesn't work that way. And this is how 5 biological laws of nature work. You may have put them into a box of allopathic medicine definitions or Western medicine, holistic or Eastern medicine definitions. But the difference here is that we're just basically taking a huge set of laws and we're making a indirect statement about a small subset of each of them. So we could look at regions, we could look at organs, we could look at functional systems. But when we really look at the bottom of the root of all of this, there are 5 biological laws of nature that we all are attuned to. So congratulations, you literally can just listen, open your ears, open your brain, allow yourself to just soak in this education because your body already knows it. And that's when I said in the beginning here, you're going to figure out things that you just didn't know consciously in our hour we're going to spend together today. And so you may have a perspective shift that comes, this big light bulb moment that happens. It's really just a key in the lock, unlocking that mechanism that's already inside of you. And this in and of itself will completely transform your health and vitality. So let's go over these in simplistic terms. I always like to talk in analogies. It's my favorite thing. So we all know symptoms suck. Let's be honest. It's yucky. It feels gross. We don't like it. And we've been taught and conditioned and programmed that if we have a symptom, that means it's bad. We're rewriting that tonight. Symptoms do not mean bad. Symptoms equal healing. 99% of the time, symptoms equal healing. The only time that it doesn't equal healing is when it equals conflict activity, because there's a few programs that actually, when you're having symptoms, we know we're in conflict activity. But for the majority of that, when you're having symptoms, you are in healing. So for the sake of completely transforming your mind tonight, when you have a symptom, it means you're in healing. I know it's so hard to wrap our heads around, but I promise it's going to make sense to you. So law number 2, conflicts trigger biological response programs. So if I yell at you and shout in your face and then throw something at you, you probably will interpret that as unexpected, completely conflicting, and not able to predetermine that it was going to happen. And it just completely knocks you off your feet. That's a conflict. So it could be words, it could be physical objects, it could be a car accident. It could be any type of experience that you were not expecting. I don't like to call them traumas. I like to call them conflicts because conflicts encompass things that it doesn't have to mean it's bad in order for you to experience it as a conflict. You could have shocking news that is good news that sends you into a conflict. So conflict is something that is completely unexpected. And when that happens, it triggers a biological response, a meaningful biological response, because we are hardwired for survival. And if we are not surviving, then we are dead. So no matter how fancy car we drive, the house that we have, how successful we are in business, if we don't have biological adaptation and survival, we are dead. We can't have any of that. And so no matter if we're an animal or we're a human or we're a plant, that is our biological need. And so our body is wired to respond. So when we are experiencing conflicts, our body's bringing in helpers in order to either repair or eat away tissue, build up tissue, or to change the function in order for us to be focused on survival. And we call those programs. So you may have something like we're going to talk about tonight that impacts your skin. You will have a skin program, and that's what we're going to focus on tonight. But moving on to law number 3, healing follows conflict resolution. So your goal when you experience a conflict is to resolve it as fast as possible. Think about it. If I cut my arm off and it's bleeding, I have to get to the emergency room, right? So if I experience an unnecessary, completely shocking conflict that I didn't see coming, I have to figure out biologically how to resolve that because it's my due diligence to put myself back into regular go mode and out of that survival mode because every second or the intensity of something is relating to something needing to be done in response. And so the faster we could find a resolution, the less impact it makes on our body. And so when we have this process of finding conflict resolution, we go from conflict to conflict resolution into healing. So our goal is A plus B equals C. If you have a conflict and you find the resolution, you go into healing. Now, here's the one we covered last week. And if you want to watch it, it will really blow your mind, is number 4. Microbiomes assist in repair. We talked about the gut last week, and we debunked all of the things that people are selling you on in terms of gut fixes and quick fixes and detoxes and bringing in new bacteria and pre and pro and all the types of biotics that you are experiencing and probably spending a lot of money on. So if you want to tap into that, go check out Gut Wisdom on my YouTube channel. It's already been posted from last week. But no matter what the program, no matter what we're fixing or experiencing in our survival mode to find resolution, we have to have microbes. Microbes are necessary for the repair. If we don't have them, we can't fully resolve our conflicts biologically. And that just means they're going to sit there and wait to resolve until we come in contact with those microbes. So we live in a very hyper-hygienic, fear of bugs, fear of germs, fear of dirt society. And we wonder why majority of us experience long-term conflicts that wreak havoc on our body because we're not able to have the great healthy microbes that are necessary for us to resolve them in a quick response. The skin plays a large role in this too. So last but not least, each program has a predictable pattern. And this one's always, I think, what puts people at ease because we could feel like we are the cause of all of our problems. We could feel like someone has told us it's all in our head. Someone has told us there's no hope for you, there's nothing left, we've tried all the things. And this is where the big shift happens because in Western medicine, they look at things in a regional sense. And I will tell everybody, there are certain things that don't apply in German New Medicine. Spontaneous injury, malnutrition, those are 2 of the really, really big ones. So if I have my arm cut off, I do need to go to the medical institution. So it's not that we are against medicine. We are against being feared by the paradigm. And so when we aren't feared, we can make logical, healthy, connected decisions and have a predictable pattern and understand what's going to happen. So similar, if you have liver cells, they're never going to travel to your stomach. If you have, eye cells, they're never going to go to your rectum, right? We have predictable patterns. So when we run predictable programs and we have a subset of symptoms, it means that's where the conflict is running or you are in a healing state. So we are going to look at this and take a big deep breath in and exhale that we don't have to worry about where we're at anymore. We don't have to worry about what is going on in our system in a fear-based state. We have a conscious awareness and opportunity to take responsibility for our healing and shift that immensely. So let's look at the skin. The biggest thing here, we've talked about things such as energy and the nervous system. We've talked about things from weight loss, weight gain, chronic pain, all the way through all the big symptoms, insomnia, changes in sleep. Skin is a little bit different because you see, the skin is our biggest organ. And most people don't think of the skin as an organ, but it is. One of my children's books that I wrote about the body systems, I talk about the skin a lot. And most people commonly forget that the skin is even an organ in and of itself. And so when you look at your skin, it's actually the interface of your vital energy, right? It's what connects to the outside world. All the organs, everything else, the blood, the vessels, everything is held in by the skin. And so our skin biologically acts as a mirror to our inner world. We could talk emotionally, we could talk biologically, we could talk energetically, but regardless of any of those, the skin is the protector. It is the casing. It is the outside source that connects to the outside world. So we have to relate this biologically. What does this mean? I always say put your thinking cap on and we want to think about if we were a primitive animal. Because when you understand German healing knowledge, Germanische Heilkunde, Germany medicine, all the same thing. When you understand the 5 biological laws of nature, it's easiest to look through the lens of primitive experiences, like a deer in the headlight situation, or like an animal in nature, or a bear that hibernates and has or an animal that's nocturnal and has a certain rhythm in nature, because that's actually how we're wired. Most people don't think that or relate that because we live in a modern world, but we are. So when we look at this, we want to think boundaries and protection. That is what our skin does for us. It also has sensory perception and connection to the outside world, meaning you could be touched and you could experience things through touch. And it also has an emotional expression through tissue. So we have an emotional expression that runs through us in terms of our sensuality in our touch and how we experience our 5 senses, skin and touch being one of the biggest connectors to our modern day world. And that is key. So your skin is how you meet the world. It holds memory, it has contact, boundaries, identity, and every change in our skin tells a story. It's whether a story of conflict, of repair, of safety, or of transformation. So let's start with, we have multiple layers of skin. Let's start with the outer skin. That's the epidermis of the skin. That's the outer layer. If you're familiar with physiology, this layer of skin comes from the ectoderm of the 3 germ layers. You have endoderm, mesoderm, ectoderm. So even though it is a tissue that we look at primitively, it is the most modern type of primitive tissue. And so this is something that we're going to see more modern day things that cause more skin programs, because that's how our bodies are biologically wired and created. And so this is what we talk about in terms of separation conflicts. And so you might say separation, well, that makes no sense. We are beings that live in community. We are communal beings. And so when we look at separation, we have to look at how we interact via touch or via physical presence, or how our psyche determines our textile experience and sensory perception. So separation conflicts make up, I think, the most in today's world, modern day world, of skin problems, symptoms that we may experience in the skin. And so separation conflicts can be anything from you wanting to be touched by someone or something in a conflict, wanting distance because you don't want touch or you don't want to be in a sensory perceptive way of somebody, or you have a lost contact. This is maybe someone passed away who was really close and had physical touch, or you had lost contact with someone, they moved away. This could be anywhere that your psyche is perceiving this. And this is where it's beautiful because we're all individual. We may both go through the same type of experience, like losing a friend, and we all may experience that loss differently from our psyche, our personality determines these programs. So if someone has a separation conflict, it may be feeling disconnected. It may be from feeling removed from somebody when you wanted to be close. Overall, your typical situation with skin, this is pretty common. You see this in children a lot when parents go back to work. You see this a lot when children go to daycare. It's not that there's germs at daycare that are giving them eczema. It's not that they ate the wrong food that caused them eczema. It's not that they had some type of germ or bug or experience, or someone touched them incorrectly on their skin and it got some type of bacteria, and so now we're trying to treat it with this topical antibiotic. What it actually is a desire for them to be closer or away. And so we see skin stuff rampantly in children because predominantly in the modern day world, moms go back to work after 6 weeks. There's a loss of touch, a physical touch with mothers. Diaper rashes are the #1 skin conflict that you experience, because what happens when children want to be closer to mom or dad? They're held on the hip of a mother or a father, and that desire of the inside of the legs to be close, and they can't make contact. Once they get back home or they're there on the weekend, they may have diaper rashes on the weekend because they were away from the predominant parent and they felt completely disconnected. So we have to start thinking and make our brain work primitively. So itching, rashes, these are all part of the skin conflicts. They would appear after the conflict resolves, when the skin is repairing. So looking at this in just an overview, I know it can be a pretty complex topic, but just starting to look at these things in your own world, because you've probably experienced lots of skin conflicts or have lots of friends and family that have as well. Active phase, so this is after the conflict happens, you haven't found resolution yet. Your skin may feel pale, cold, maybe have some numbness. In the healing phase, you have rashes, redness, itching, that eczema look. So let's continue on into the deep layers of the skin, or the dermis. These are more attack or integrity conflicts. So think of it. The outside layer, the epidermis, connects to the outside world. If I say something to you that impacts you so deeply, maybe it's something how you look or how you perform, and you interpret it as some type of attack on your body, you're going to have a deep, deep intensity conflict that revolves around tissue thickening, right? Because you've been attacked. And so, actively, if you've been attacked biologically, your body is going to feel like it got broken down. So, you're going to build back up in the active phase, because your body is just going to say, hey, I'm fighting back. I'm biologically bringing more information to the table because they attacked me. So, I'm prepared. I'm prepared to fight. That's my response. So, in the healing phase, what happens is that gets all swelled and inflamed and tender because there's too much there. It was an overgrowth. It feels yucky. It feels tacked. And so what do? We look at these as acne, cysts, boils, welt, hives. These are all parts and are a mix of the two between separation, conflicts, or themes of attack or integrity. We have all probably had at some point a pimple, or teenage acne, or chronic deep dermal acne from a child who's been bullied, or doesn't look at themselves the way that the average child looks at themselves, or has experienced a attack or face attack on someone saying something about how they look or how they're not performing well enough. It's all up here in our psyche, but once we know what program it is predictable. So this is when the body rebuilds back tissue after a resolution, and we see that come into our face predominantly, or our skin or our elbows, depending where that conflict was important in that resolution. Again, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. I will answer them throughout, and then we will also have a Q&A session at the end. So now let's look into the other side of things, right? All of us, predominantly with women, but men too, want to have better skin as they age. They want better elasticity. They want to have skin repair. They don't want blemishes or lines or wrinkles or these types of experiences. And so we have to look at, what does that mean, right? Because we are meant to age. We are meant to age in terms of the forces of the world that live upon us. But why is it that someone in their 30s may look 60 and someone in their 60s may look 30? That depends on our biological adaptation, right? So what are we doing in our vital energy to help us repair these cycles of conflict a lot faster, to a higher degree of easefulness, and having more resources to replenish that area? So if someone's under chronic stress, let's say, you work on Wall Street, or you're putting chronic stress on your body in terms of toxins, like actual toxins, like, all kinds of different chemicals, drugs, even over-the-counter drugs are so toxic to the body. This is when we have that sympathetic dominance. It's slowing everything down because vital energy is low. Your gas tank is empty. So when we get into a healing phase, all the time in healing phases is important, collagen rebuilds. And that's essential. That's a vital energy marker, a vital force energy of repair for our skin, for that organ. So all in all, aging isn't genetic. It's actually a cumulative experience of stress patterns, or how intense your healing cycles last, or how long those conflicts and those programs run before you find resolution. So if we look at vital energy and we want to restore that elasticity, we want a better glow, we want a better tone, and then ultimately we just want the nervous system to return to safety, because that's when repair happens, when we have better vital energy so that our innate intelligence can connect and rewire and work through those programs from A plus B equals C state. So I want to throw something at you. I know a lot of you are all about the new fancy gadgets that we put on our face, the creams, the lotions, the potions, the things that, we're told, even the Botox, that's like literally a neurotoxin that we're putting into our face just to have like instant gratification. I want to shift here because, we've also been taught that sunlight is horrible for us. And so most of us, put all kinds of chemicals on our face before we go out into the sun, because they say this face is the most vulnerable place. I don't personally think that's true. But when we go outside and we receive sunlight, sunlight is essential to synthesizing biological variants. And so you also have your own light. Your body emits its own low-level infrared light, and we can utilize that to actually optimize our vital energy. And so I want to share that with you tonight, because something is really important when we're looking at not just repairing skin, not just having less aging, but actually age reversing and looking at the potential of longevity of what our body can do, not what you've been told it can do. And there's a difference there, because when you take the light that we emit and you use it as a generator and reflect it back into the body, you actually can create biological vital force energy that's useful to resolving these programs with a little bit more ease, a little bit more faster timeline, in a sense of just having more gas in the gas tank gets you a little bit further than stopping every 100 miles and filling up a quarter of the tank. So let's look at this in terms of tissue repair and regenerating these pathways. And before we do that, like I said, there's some things that we've done, but it's okay if we've done them, because we all have human choice and we all have human free will. And that's what makes the world go round. It's important that we have diversity. And it's important that we experience things and realize that maybe they weren't for the best for us, and we get to make a different choice. So there's no shame in what you're doing with your skin. It's your skin. That's your skin. You can't make any claims about what anybody else is telling you to do with it, because it's yours. You are solely responsible and you have that choice to be made. But what is true is that skin cannot heal by attacking it topically, because we know those topical ointments have things in them that puts you back into a conflict state. It's not possible to heal and be in conflict activity at the same time. We just looked at that law. Number 2, suppressing rashes or breakouts. You may not like your eczema, you may not like your acne, you may not like something that's on your skin, but if we're going to suppress it by covering it up with something, we're actually, again, forcing it back into conflict activity, and it's going to come back and it's going to want to heal, because 95% of the time our body will heal the programs it inherently has, because it desires not just that survival rate. It wants you to feel safe in your nervous system. It wants you to adapt meaningfully and necessarily without intense adaptations and intense suffering. And again, if you're over cleansing, using stripping oils, like looking at your face like it's a leather pad and having to rejuvenate it every single day, it's honestly not going to hold or replenish or repair in ways that we want it to heal, because it has nothing to do with that. We are not deficient in oils and deficient in topical ointments in order for us to heal. It's the same way our body is not deficient in Tylenol and requires Tylenol to heal. Our body is wired, but it was created very innately and very connected and has the tools to follow that paradigm. Next, let's look at what it does need. It needs the conflict to resolve. So get out of its way, start shifting your perspective, start working up here, learning the 5 biological laws, moving out of fear and into faith in terms of healing. Repair these cycles to completion. Don't allow them to hang. A lot of skin stuff that happens, it's because we want to cover it up. And so we send it back to conflict activity and we do this dance. We do this, oh, it's in conflict activity. Now it's healing. I don't like how it looks. Back to conflict activity. Oh, that pimple's back again. Cover it up, cut it off, put an ointment on it. Oh, now I have 3 pimples, because you're fighting. You are resisting the full completion of healing, versus if you just had it for maybe a week, it goes away and it completes that healing cycle. And of course, we need the nervous system in play here. If your nervous system is out of balance, it's because you're in conflict activity. You can only have a balanced nervous system if you are not in conflict activity. You can't change your nervous system if you're in conflict activity until you resolve the program. So overall, if we suppress our symptoms, we go back to this conflict loop, and it's just this constant restart, which is aggravating. So what we simply need to do is just give our body permission to feel safe, to move through repair, not be shut down, and to have that release after we return to normal homeostasis. So let's look a little bit more into this light technology. So what if I told you had this little patch, and like, I got a brand new sleeve, I got a bunch of sleeves today. So this fancy little patch that you put on your body, literally no ingredients. It simply reflects back your own light into your body, increases the gasoline in the gas tank, which is vital life force energy. We're not treating anything. It's not covering anything up. It's not going to deplete or send you back into conflict activity like a lot of other things. It's just simply saying, hey, I'm here to help with adaptation. What do we need? How are we going to run this repair process? And the body's going to say, listen, I have my own order. Thanks for putting the gas in. I'm going to run the control systems and work on a hierarchy of what Kayla needs. And if we need a little bit more energy, we're going to take from there. So how does this work? Non-transdermal. That's the whole reason I've been wearing this for over almost 2.5 years now, is because I don't put anything into the body. There's no vitamins, no supplements, nothing going into the body. It's simply a cotton pad, a stabilized water, stabilized oxygen, amino acids, and organic crystal structures like mirrors that reflect your light back into you. And what it does, it helps your body via your own light turn on peptides, biological variants, collagen, elasticity, cellular renewal. We're looking at actually the light communicating directly with our tissues and restoring that radiance or that inside glow through vital life force energy from the inside out. So I think I covered most of this. We're not putting anything in the body. There's no side effects or contraindications. Doesn't matter what medication you're taking because there's nothing in this. Nothing. I put it in my camera. Nothing in it. And this is something that's been around for over 20 years. David Schmidt, the inventor, CEO, and founder of LifeWave, specifically the X-ray 9 patch, has been literally life transforming for millions of individuals, millions. And so there's over 200 patents in the LifeWave technology. This product that was made specifically for our Navy SEALs 21 plus years ago, and all started from a dream and an incredible inventor who spent 10 years researching stem cells over in Ireland. So I want to share just a little bit here before we move into more of what that practical situation looks like. And this is my daughter. So if you watched my call last time on with Dr. Stacy, I shared a little bit about how I got into LifeWave. A lot of people don't know how I got into LifeWave, and it was from my daughter. This is the daughter who also introduced me. Well, I won't say introduced me. In the world of German new medicine, it was traveling in my field for years, and I was resistant. If you remember from last night, those that watched, I'm very resistant to a lot of things until I experience it and do my research. And so I was, like, I don't know about German new medicine. I'll enter in my middle child, 5 years ago. And she introduced German new medicine into my life where I couldn't unsee it. It was like, oh, well, this is where I was avoiding going. And then the same thing happened with the patches. And so this experience here is just a little separation conflict. And I'll say little because you'll see some of the other ones we've gone through. But this is really relatable because anybody heard of the Western medicine dis-ease of hand, foot, and mouth? So hand, foot, and mouth is actually a separation conflict resolution. And we wonder why children, when they're in daycare, there's a hand, foot, and mouth outbreak. And, contagion isn't a real thing. Contagion isn't real because if it was contagious logically, we apply logic to this, every single person would have to have it in contact with one another in order for it to be contagious. And so when we go in daycare, sure, a hand, foot, mouth may be a predominant experience in daycare. And why is that? It's not because it's contagious. It's because predominantly children are separated from their parents at an age that they biologically shouldn't be separated from these children. And so when we look at this biologically, children up to the age of 3 are typically biologically, if we look at that in a family unit sense, should be with their mothers or their predominant providers and feel that connection. Now I get it. We live in a modern day world. These are just modern day things that come up when we live in a very modern day world. So this here is after me and my husband went out of town to speak and teach continuing education. We were gone for 3 days. When we came back about a day or two after, she started with a fever and she had some diarrhea. So those of you that know the typical symptoms of hand, foot, mouth, she had them. I figured she'd have a conflict because we left her and she was young and she was still nursing. And so she left for a few days, came back home, stayed with my parents. She stayed in our own house. She was safe. She was fine. But biologically, she wasn't. Her mom left. And so when I returned, I noticed diarrhea, the fever came on. And then all of a sudden, about a week or two later, her hands and feet started sloughing skin. Right? So think of what happens. We were in conflict activity. The body started repairing itself because I was home now. It was resolved, practical resolution. And then she developed this really nasty rash that actually spread. It lasted quite some time. And then it kept spreading and spreading because guess what? I had to go out of town for work again. And so we battled with this for almost a year. And it got quite nasty because, I was home with her all the time. I chose to be a stay-at-home mom after my second child was born. And I still had to go places sometimes. I was speaking at CE. I was teaching with a business coach at that time. I was doing a lot of things. My career was important to me, even though I was doing it from home. And so there would be days I'd have to go into the office and I'd see patients for about a half a day. And this is when we'd keep this, pressing on this issue. We'd go back into conflict activity and we'd have it again. And so it was this repetitive cycle until I finally had to say, for a 6-month time period, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to do this. I want to see this end. And, we had a conversation about it. I shared with her I wasn't going anywhere. Anywhere I went, I took her with me and it resolved itself. Now, how many have heard this story time and time again? And they throw lotions and potions and things at it. People offered me, you should put this on it. You should put this on it. You should put this on it. I never put a single thing on it. The only thing I put on it was this patch. Because I was introduced by this patch by April Vaughn, who actually her daughter is my neighbor. So it was literally divine intervention. And she said, just try the patch, just put it on her back. We'll see what happens. And so it helped optimized healing. It was not an overnight change, but I noticed a change. Why? Because she used to subconsciously scratch at night. She wouldn't sleep at night. She'd slough off her skin from scratching, like a neurodermatitis type thing. As it got worse and worse and worse, and we made this big, huge, a mountain out of a molehill situation with separation. And so the X-ray and then adding aloe vera in over time, along with me returning home, helped return her skin to regular balance. And I will say this created so much scarring for her, and now she is almost 5 and no longer has this scarring. It has healed and regenerated and brought beautiful collagen elasticity back to her vital energy. And that was what 100% made me go, huh, what is it about this patch? Because it's not changing her, it's adding more to her vital life force energy. And now I know this might be triggering for some, so this is my own child, again, the same daughter, much older. She is 4 in this experience. And we had, I'm trying to think what happened. She was playing, that's what happened. She's had a lot of separation things. And I will say, because we predominantly, our psyche, who we are as people, we navigate to different programs. We kind of have subsets of things. Like I typically tend to have more gut programs and more type of endoderm type programs from that dermal layer, versus my daughter has more skin stuff. My son, again, he's more like me, has more endodermal things. Everybody's different. We tend to gravitate to different programs based off our experiences and how we believe ourselves and what we think about ourselves up here. And so for her, we were playing. She doesn't like to be touched. She's very independent, but likes to do her own thing, doesn't like to be touched. And a child yanked on her arm and said, no, I don't want to do that. And she does not like being touched. And so she reamed herself backwards. And I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be nasty. And it was. This is actually what it looked like. It started to crust. She developed this like sore out of nowhere. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And so eventually, and this is great, children are really great when they're old enough to talk about what's going on with their body. They're still connected intuitively to that part of themselves, which is so beautiful. We turn that off as adults. So I asked her, I said, and there's other things too, depending on which side of the body it's on, if they're predominantly left or right-handed, which level of the brain it's in. So again, it's very organized physiologically. So we could look at these things, and I built that whole outline and I determined this is what it was from. And she confirmed it. She just said, I didn't want him to grab me. Very valid, right? We know what happens in our body. The body keeps the score. And so this is what she did. And so this is her timeline. It's about a 2-week timeline. It was intense, and you could see it spread because it was a pretty intensive conflict she experienced, and it spread all the way up her arm. Interestingly enough, I had to go out of town again in the midst of this just for 4 days. And so when I came back, that's when it spread a little bit more, right? Like you're just intensifying separation. She has that track built into her brain from that original track, even though we've resolved that if you step on that track hard enough, right? It's like you step on something on the ground hard enough, it'll hurt. Same thing happens when you ignite a track in your brain. So it spread a little bit, went through healing. You could see here, I'll zoom in a little bit. Really cool to see. I mean, I know it could be triggering for some, but looking at actually how the body heals and having this is very empowering to trust. Like most people would have been terrified of this. A lot of my family was. And then this looked a little bit scarier. And she wanted to cover it up because she was like, this, people are looking at me. So I honored that. We covered it up, which wasn't ideal because it doesn't help with healing. It needed air. So it got a little bit yucky. And then we told her, like, we gotta uncover this. So we slept with it uncovered. It moved to this state. And then you could see it got all dry and it healed and the skin repaired. It was very itchy because skin was rebuilding itself back. And this is what it looked like after 2 weeks. And she has some, modeling that needs to be regenerated and rejuvenated. This was back last summer. And so her skin is completely healed, doesn't look like that anymore. So I like to share this because we see a lot of these things that happen in our own backyard, in our own communities, and we fear them. This was actually her. I say she's had a lot of separation things. This was another separation situation she had when she was a tiny baby. That she had. She didn't like wearing this necklace, and she didn't like how things were touching her, right? And we just think, oh my gosh, what is this? So we removed it. We gave her a break. We took it off for some time. She didn't like the restriction, and then it went away. But you could see just the changes that as it grows. So then we have some other outside here. I like to include, of course, outside of my story. We have just simply a medical situation where there was some type of surgical procedure that happened, and the skin is able to repair and rejuvenate itself with better life force energy. Same thing here. This is can be an attack conflict. This can be a soiled conflict, some type of integrity of the skin, some type of separation as well, wanting someone to hold their hands, and you can see how this healed over time. Same thing here. We have some type of skin blemish. that you may call the big C word, excuse me, but overall, the necessary healing process is what we call the big C word. You have to have an increase of cells in order for our body to restore vitality. So it's not like this scary experience when you look at it through the German New medicine lens. It's a necessary and meaningful biological adaptation to restore you back to your vital function. So I want to take some time and talk about a few things because I know I love to talk about vital energy, and I do give practical resolutions here and look at the timeline of how things move along. So if we look at wanting to make an impact in some type of skin conflict that you're experiencing, no matter what it is, we have to have vital life force energy. So that's what X39 is. X39 allows your body to reflect your own light back inside and increase a copper peptide called GHK copper peptide. This peptide is essential for a lot of things: hair, skin, and nails, anything down to your lungs, your gut, your nervous system, your brain. But overall, we're looking at GHK copper peptide being vital, the majority of the cellular components of our body, and that's our stem cells. So GHK copper peptide, look it up on PubMed, increases and activates the vital energy of our stem cells. And stem cells, I call them the Bob Ross of cells. They're the Bob Ross of cells. They can take any cell, turn it into something, and it becomes a cell in that area. So if you want to heal, you need more skin cells, we create them, right? And so this is what X39 is. It helps with that vital life force energy and replenishment. Then we have Eon. Eon is a really great patch because it helps with that inflammatory state. It helps bring the nervous system to a regulated position, puts even more gas in the gas tank, if you will, and can really help with mood, mental clarity, and think about people who have skin things. Most of them also run a self-evaluation program because it makes them feel ugly or soiled, or they devaluate themselves so they don't like how they look because it feels yucky or it looks yucky or people can look at them. So we always sometimes, or we might sometimes run other programs alongside others because we pair them together because we live a very modern day experience. We could talk about carnosine. I love carnosine for several reasons. We need amino acids in our life. We need our body to be able to repair and regenerate our organs, and our skin is one of those organs. So carnosine is essential, not just for our vital organs and brain, but for our skin too. Because if we are having lumps, bumps, bruises, some of those cysts, those acne things, our body needs carnosine to help repair the elasticity in that skin because it is one of our biggest organs. Then I want to take a detour. Because if you were to start anywhere, I always say start with X39. And I show you this because you could get an amazing kit to start off, excuse me, with just these 5 patches. And this would give you a lot of gas in your gas tank. Like you're talking full car restoration at this point. Like you are opting into vitality in multiple facets. But I want to talk about 2 patches in particular tonight. We already talked about X39. I want to talk about Alavida. And so you can see here, Alavida is the epithalamin peptide. The epithalamin peptide is vital for collagen, it's vital for hair, skin, and nails. It's vital for braid. It's vital for a lot of things. There's literally an entire book written on it. Look up the epithalamin peptide on PubMed. Your mind will be blown. And so when you pair this with the GHK copper peptide being optimized, and you have an increase in epithalamin peptide or epithalamin peptide, and research is epithalamin, and you see the shift of what can happen. I just put the Alavida and X-Ray on my daughter, and I noticed a huge change, not just in, symptom-wise, but I noticed it in her entire aura, or who she was, how she experienced this scratch or this itch, because it just gave her a little bit more, let's just say, energy. And so when we talk about anti-aging, we typically share this, but I wanted to share it tonight, because when we take these 2 patches, X39, I'm not going into my screen camera, X39 and Eon, and we pair them with something else that exists in the world of LifeWave, is the Alavida regenerating system. It is a cream system. So it actually has GHA copper peptide in it. So this is different. This is not something that's not an outside-in situation, but this is something that is a topical. So if you are one of those girlies or women that have to put something on your skin, this is life-changing. I've had 3 children. I get stretch marks every time. I wear X39 and Alavida religiously. I've been wearing X39 every single day for almost 2.5 years. Alavida 5 nights a week for, I think, that entire time as well. It's one of my favorite patches. And I started wearing this Alavida Regenerating Trio. There's a day cream, a night nectar, and then an eye cream. And so I started wearing it and putting it on my stretch marks. And I got varicose veins during my pregnancy because, I gained a significant amount of weight because I just need it. I require that. I've tandem nurse, so I put on a lot of weight and it falls off easily, but my skin is just like, what are we doing? I've had 3 children in 6 years. And so I should have included pictures, but I have crazy pictures of just putting the elevator regenerating credo on my inner thighs where I have those stretch marks, and they have completely, the blood vessels are gone out of them, those varicose veins are gone, the skin is replenished, I don't have the stretch marks. And I am shocked that I had more stretch marks after I had my first child when I was not patching than after my third. They've all reduced and rejuvenated themselves and restored themselves back to abundant tissue. So my invitation for you is to at least start with X39 and Alavita, or X39 and Eon and Alavita. And if you want more one-on-one help, you could always reach out to the person who invited you here, or send me an email, hello@drkaylaabeid.love, and I could help you if you don't have a contact. But this is a great way to get started for $295 and to build just not just in the skin world, because we don't just have skin conflicts, everybody. We have so many different conflicts. We live in a modern day world. And so if we want to add more or the most vital energy to our system, this would be the best way. And on our team, we do things a little bit different. So if you join our team, and this is exclusive to our team, so if you are on the Love and Light team, somewhere underneath in our downline, I do have a huge free education portal where we dive into German medicine, we dive into each patch itself. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of videos and tools. One of those is a 50+ page health tracker that you get gifted for starting patching in this experience with us. And you get a support group on Telegram that's exclusive to our downline where I answer questions, other practitioners that are in there. There's dozens and dozens of practitioners on our team that show up and answer questions and connect with people on a daily and weekly basis. And then you get access to our weekly trainings we do for our team, and we always function and wrap in the 5 biological laws. That's the only way I function. So if that's something that's exciting to you and you're wanting to join our team, reach out to whoever invited you here tonight. And then what to expect. I'm not going to take the time to go over this. I want to save some time for questions tonight, but this is pretty predominant to most of the other conversations we have. But if you want to take a screenshot and read through it, that's a great way to do it, or catch it on the replay. So last but not least, I want to talk about this before questions, because everybody always says, like, well, what do I do? I watched this thing. I'm super grateful you stayed for this full hour. But what can I do today? Well, we know that hydration is vital, just like vital life force energy. So get some structured water, because hydration is important, not just for your body, but for your skin. Your skin needs hydration in order to repair, rejuvenate. It needs water for plumpness. If you are dehydrated and not able to soak in water into your tissues, you're not going to bring in anything else into your tissues. We are predominantly water and salt beings. And so not just water, but actual mineral salts. So if you are, yellow girl in the red, or the yellow girl, or, my goodness, girl in the yellow dress, Morton Salt, throw her out, put her to the curb, and get some Redmond's Real Salt or Baja Gold Salt. They have over 90+ minerals. You could use as much salt to taste. It's low sodium. It's not going to throw off your kidneys. It doesn't matter if you have issues. So that is a real salt. That's what is necessary for tissues, for your tissue function. So get some real salt, put it in your water, eat it to taste. It's really healthy for you. And then there's something called cell salt. So there's 12 vital cell salts that pour into our vital source energy. And so these are some, I always put some in here specific to each program we're talking about. If you're in conflict activity and you haven't resolved this yet, you're going to need some of this because you're lacking it, because you're in the conflict state, you're in survival, like deer in headlights. Oh no, what do I have in my body? So again, start patching, put some cell salts in your body, get some water and some minerals, and you're going to help support your system as it moves through healing. So calc fluor is great for elasticity. Silica is for skin clarity and detox. Natmer is for hydration balance. Calimer is for rashes and eruptions and helping that vital energy force process. Hydration, again, just cells glow when they're hydrated and cells are dull when they're not, when they're dehydrated. Minerals drive electrical repair and collagen linking. And if you're going to start wearing these patches, you need water and salt. We are electrical chemical gradients. You absolutely need them in order for conductivity. So I'm going to turn this presentation off, and anybody who has questions can completely unmute themselves, turn your video on or not, drop in your chat any questions you have. I wanted to save the last 10 minutes so we could connect here and tune in. I believe it's up. I'll look on my phone while people are asking questions. My schedule is crazy right now, but let me find the next day that we're going to do this so I can share it with you. It would be, here it is, December 3rd. that is when we are moving into our next Vital Energy series. Let's look and make sure that's for sure. Yes, it is December 3rd, Wednesday, December 3rd, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We are talking about the root rewrite. That means we are looking through chronic symptoms through the lens of this root-based medicine. So we're just going to debunk what it looks like when people talk about the root cause. There are companies, businesses like that have taglines like "This is the root cause." What does that actually mean through the biological laws? So we're going to look at varying long-term programs that actually don't have, or long-term symptoms that don't actually have a specific program. Instead, they are a conglomerate of multiple programs that are in conflict activity, in resolution, hanging, healing, that just build themselves to this tumultuous dis-ease that we categorize in Western medicine. Some of those things are Lyme disease, even Epstein-Barr we could talk about within the Lyme disease world. We could talk about fibromyalgia. We could talk about these big, huge open-ended diagnoses that you have to check categories of symptoms in order for them to be considered a diagnosis, right? It's like you have to have 18 out of these 36 points. You have to have 15 out of these 25 symptoms. And then we just categorize you. And we talk about, well, the root cause of fibromyalgia is this. And so really just doing what Dr. Hammer did several decades ago, where he just said, no, what is the conflict? And let's look at these individual conflicts and see how each conflict individually is its own thing. And when we group them together, we live in a modern day society where we have just been okay with all these conflicts, and we are pretty commonly experiencing these as a modern society, and we're going to call them this. So we're going to break that down. So it'll be really fun. It'll probably be a little bit more in depth. So if you've been tuning in all along the past 7 times we've done this, make sure you are up to date on some of those things, because we are going to dive a little bit deeper to have a little bit more wisdom and knowledge of understanding how these systems work. So last call for questions, drop it in the chat, unmute yourself, raise your hand, send me a message personally. I am here to help. Nope, okay. That was a really short Jeopardy. Yeah, you're so welcome, Anisha. Well, I will see you back here on December 3rd. So much love to everybody. The replay for this will be up within 24 hours. Oh, varicose veins in the pelvis. Ooh, whoever you are, iPhone. I'm going to put my email here. So the varicose veins in the pelvis. So varicose veins fall under blood tissue. So let's dive a little bit deeper into this, because this may be a little bit more symptomology I need, that being very general. So send me an email. I will get some information. If you want to give me more, a little bit more personal information, I will get you back a expression of what that is. Yeah, you're so welcome. Anyone else? Last minute call. I know we have just a couple minutes here. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Glasses are falling off today. Sweet. We'll get in touch with those who invited you here today. And yep, I'll send that email to you, Anisha, as well. Hope you have a lovely night, a great week, and hopefully you stay warm wherever you're at, like me. I'm going to go crawl underneath the blanket. So much love to you all. I will catch y'all in 2 weeks. See you later.